It has arrived, my dual catch can from RXP Engineering. These guys are coming out of the US, Florida, I believe. I was doing a lot of research about catch cans, and it appears as though this particular catch can system is one of the best on the market. Well, there's only one way to find out if that's the case, and that is to install it. I ordered this about 6 weeks ago, I suppose, with COVID. It took that long to get here, but nonetheless, it has arrived. Well, it came with a whole lot of other parts too. I'll go through those and see how we go installing it into the LFX motor, which is of course out of my Commodore SV6. These are the same motors as in the Camaro, Chevy Camaro. They make good power. This doesn't have an OTR, it's just got the standard air intake. It will have an OTR and when I tune it. For the moment, we're just going to use this air intake as part of the system. So this video is just about how I install the twin catch can system RXP into an LFX motor. So this is what arrived in the kit. I mean, there's a lot of hardware here. You've got brackets, you've got one-way check valves, some really nice quality looking clip-on fittings. Yeah, a little T section there for part of the plumbing. The brackets, of course, for mounting up the cans themselves, and some other hardware, I guess, if you need it. This also looks like really good quality rubber. This is Continental pipe. So yeah, pretty impressed with what arrived for the money. I'll tell you what, it's good quality. I will say that much. I can just tell, you know, these fittings, they clip in beautifully, and I think this is gonna hopefully work as well as what people are saying. You know, I've read nothing but good things about this. So yeah, keen to put it in. So I think we'll start by mounting the cans. Now, I've seen that people are mounting them down off one of these bolts here. I don't have an engine cover on this motor anymore. I took that off. I just thought it'd be better to ventilate it a bit. I actually put a plenum spacer in at one point. In fact, I made a whole other video about that. But yeah, I just leave this exposed, and in which case I took off the bracket that was holding that engine cover off. But I think we'll make use of that. See if we can't mount our catch cans down in there somehow. Come here, Sonia, for a sec. I've dropped the bolt. Can you see down in there? Straight down there.
Yeah.
See that bolt? It's going to be a bit hot, so just be careful. So after a bit of messing around, I managed to mount that can on that side, and I've gone with the smaller can on the other side. There just wasn't enough spots to mount it on, unfortunately, in this particular car. I mean, it appeared as though there was heaps of bolts there that I could have, you know, attached to. But anyway, in the end, I just decided to separate them, put that one on that side, because it's really its functions over that on the dirty side anyway. So I just bent that bracket a little bit. It's aluminium, so it bent easy enough, and mounted it to one of those heavier bolts. I was going to mount it off one of these in there, but they just weren't going to work. So now on to the pipe work. So I'll start with the dirty side. You're just pulling off your vacuum line here that comes to the valve cover. It's at the back of the valve cover. What's interesting is that it's quite loose in there, the factory kind of fitting that comes out. I guess it makes a vacuum, but I'll tell you what, it's very loose. Anyway, this unclips here off your intake box. I'll run a pipe from the valve cover outlet to the top of my mini can. Just going to measure this out. Probably kind of want to route that. Well, you could almost route it pretty well straight. It's going to throw in a bit of spit to lubricate that. That is a nice tight fit. That is really tight. Looks good. So at the cold air intake, we're just going to push on our fitting, probably angle it down, because we're going to use a T-piece at this point to pick up the side of the smaller can, and then to run up into the cold air intake, and then this will run away to our bigger can. Just trying to keep this away from the serpentine belt. I think I'll probably just run it right in front of everything at this point and see how it looks. Oh yeah, you definitely don't need hose clamps for these. These are so tight going on. So that's going to run to my T, and then away to a small can and up here into the cold air intake. And just looking at my diagram here, there's a check valve, so I'll have to pop that in. Now these check valves are laser etched with a directional arrow, which is helpful. I suppose you could always blow through it and make sure. Again, a really nice fit. Just putting on my T-piece. Kind of nice to hide these away a bit. Just cut a couple of short pieces there and that should work okay. So it's really only a very short piece between those two there. They give you plenty of this hose, which is good in case you make a mistake and cut something a bit short. It's always nice to see it saying made in the USA, you know it's good quality. Just hope I haven't made this too long now. Looks okay, but oh yeah, that should be fine. I'm glad I put the small can on this side in the end because that all lines up really well. There's a lot happening in here so far. Well, I suppose, you know, this isn't just a catch can, it's a whole system. So this PCV outlet, which is just in front of the firewall on the LFX, it's not easy to get out. You sort of, you got to get in there and kind of mess with it with a screwdriver. Just kind of push back one of these tabs, and I haven't damaged it, but I definitely had to manipulate it to get it out. Anyway, that's got to come out. It also comes out at the other end here at the plenum. So yeah, I had to do a bit of bending and stressing out of this pipe, but eventually it does come. It seems quite rigid, but actually it's got a lot of play in it, and you can kink it and it doesn't seem to remember it. I kinked it around here getting it out, and it's straightened out again, so no problem at all. I'm going to hang on to that because I believe we're going to have to cut it here and attach to it. Now I've run into a bit of a problem here where I've pulled out this vacuum line that runs from the plenum to the positive crankcase ventilation. The idea is to cut this pipe at the corner here and extend it down to the side of the bigger can. And of course the other end that comes from the PCV runs to the middle of the bigger can. So that's all well and good, but unfortunately the pipe, when I cut it, it is not going to fit snugly inside the pipe that's been provided. So I've had to go away and grab another bit of pipe that it hopefully will fit inside. I may have to heat this up, I think, and press that in. I'm sure it'll go, but nonetheless, I have tested this end and that fits really snugly. Probably a bit of heat as well, but that fits snugly inside there. So sort of a shame really to have gone away and get some more pipe, but nonetheless, I think I've found a solution for it. It's kind of like a reducer, just using this pipe as a reducer from this small, looks like 10mm pipe into this guy and then into the pipe that was provided. Not the end of the world, but just had to find a workaround. So I guess this is the part where we're now committed to cutting our factory hard pipe here and trying to feed it into our new reducer. Just using a pair of tin snips. Now I really hope that this fits in there nice and snug. Oh yeah, that'll fit nicely. Yeah, so this is just going to act like a reducer, and then I'll cut that and then it'll go into our bigger pipe. Okay, so just a bit of a final walkthrough. I've got my pipe coming out of here, and that's going to the top of my big catch can, out of there, through a one-way check valve, up into the plenum. Out of the other side of the big can, I've run it underneath here, underneath the throttle body. There's a one-way check valve, pointing in that direction. That one's coming over to this T-piece here, which is then of course coming off to my cold air intake and onto the side of the smaller can, which I've mounted on this side of course. And then another pipe coming up and away to the, in my case, the passenger's side valve cover. So that's the final installation. We'll start it up and see how she sounds. It all sounds pretty good. I can't really hear the sound of any vacuum leaks. The idle seems pretty good. I can actually hear, well, I can hear a bit of a vacuum coming down through the can that I couldn't hear before, but nonetheless, that's probably just testament to the fact that it's working. Look, I would recommend these systems. Look, I know there's a lot of plumbing involved. There's a lot of pipe, frankly, but I suppose the vacuum that's been pulled in here, it's kind of almost like a Venturi effect. You know, when the throttle's on, you've got some areas are going to be higher vacuum pressure than others, and well, that second can sort of takes care of any overflow or any blowback that you might get. Look, the thing with these direct injection motors is that they do have an issue with, you know, the valves don't actually get lubricated by the fuel because they are direct injected. So you end up with a bit of coking on the back of the valves, and cleaning that off is a real pain in the neck. So I've driven the car around for about a day. I can't tell any difference. The car drives just the same. There's no sounds or any performance gains. Of course, the point of these isn't about performance, it's to clean the engine. You know, when I start the car and I open that valve at the very bottom of the bigger can here, you can really hear the air rushing past. In fact, I'll do that. I'm quite surprised as to how much airflow is coming out of this valve cover. It's a lot more flow than I would have imagined. So what I'll do is I'll start the car up and you'll get to hear how much airflow is coming through. Less so on the dirty side, but I believe the smaller can on the dirty side, that is at higher RPM. You know, when you're really making a pull or putting the foot down, that's when that side sort of comes into effect. But just driving around the place, the bigger can is really the one doing most of the work. So I'll start the car up, I'll open that valve up, and you'll get a sense of how much airflow is actually produced. I'll open and shut it a couple of times. That's a lot of air. You can actually hear the idles affected when I do that as well. That's actually sucking in. It sounds like it's blowing, but it's not. It's actually sucking in. So it's quite a fascinating system. The ventilation and vacuum pressures of a motor as it's operating. It's quite a bit more complicated than I imagined. Hopefully this system is taking care of it and cleaning that blow-by that happens as the compression stroke forces air down past the piston, and of course all those particulars are going to be filtered out by these cans. It is a bit busy, I must admit. There's a lot of pipe, but nonetheless it's satisfying to know that these cans are ventilating the system and keeping the engine clean. So RXP catch cans, I'm a fan.